Developing news in Riverside County, where Sheriff Chad Bianco claims that his deputies may have prevented a third assassination attempt on former President Trump. Authorities arrested a man making his way to the Trump rally in Coachella on Saturday. Allegedly, he was armed with multiple loaded guns. Now, the Riverside County Sheriff says that the man was also carrying several passports with different names and had a homemade license plate on his vehicle.
KTLA's Omar Lewis joins us from Riverside with more on that suspect and what the Department of Justice is saying.
Rick and Kareen, the Riverside County Sheriff's Department says that 49-year-old suspect was armed with multiple loaded weapons, including a shotgun, and he also allegedly had fake credentials. The sheriff here says he believes his deputies stopped a potential third assassination attempt against former President Trump. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco confirmed to KTLA 5 News that this is the suspect, Vim Miller, arrested while trying to enter Saturday's Trump campaign rally in the Coachella Valley.
I truly do believe that we prevented another assassination attempt.
The Riverside County Sheriff's Department says Miller was stopped at a checkpoint near Saturday's Trump rally when deputies discovered he was carrying a shotgun, a loaded handgun, and a high-capacity magazine, along with fake passports and a fake license. He also allegedly attempted to use fake VIP passes to gain access to the event.
What we do know is he showed up with multiple passports with different names, an unregistered vehicle with fake license plate, and loaded firearms. If you're asking me right now, I probably did have deputies that prevented the third assassination attempt.
Tens of thousands of Trump supporters showed up to the rally held Saturday in the blistering heat at the Calhoun Ranch just outside Coachella. While residents and permitted attendees were allowed through the security checkpoints, they were closely monitored. It was at one of those checkpoints where Miller's alleged plot was foiled before the former president arrived. He was booked into a detention center for possessing a loaded firearm and high-capacity magazine.
I need to thank that deputy for doing his job. That was the first thing that went through my mind.
The U.S. Attorney's Office released a statement reading in part, the U.S. Secret Service assesses that the incident did not impact protective operations, and former President Trump was not in any danger. While no federal arrest has been made at this time, the investigation is ongoing. In July, an armed man fired at Trump during a rally in Pennsylvania, injuring the former president and killing one attendee. Just last month, another suspect was arrested in Palm Beach, Florida, with a rifle near Trump's golf club. Authorities continue their investigation into this latest incident, and the FBI is also questioning another individual linked to a potential bomb threat at Saturday's rally. And Miller has been released from jail on a $5,000 bail. His next court date is set for early next year.
This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. Third time's a charm, they say, right? Another failed assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Now, it depends how you look at this story, because some are saying it is a failed attempt and others are saying that it wasn't an attempt. And that actually plays into the narrative when you have the government themselves and the Secret Service saying it was not an attempt on Donald Trump's life and the man himself saying that he didn't, versus, of course, what the mainstream media reports. You have Democrats who think that Republicans make these things up so that Trump becomes more and more of a victim. So more and more people feel the need to vote for Donald Trump because he's clearly doing something that's threatening the deep state, that narrative that they want out there all the time. But we need to look at this story for what it's worth, right? This guy's name is Vim Miller, and some of the theories that are out there need to be discussed because there's a few words that they're using that we have to bring attention to. Sovereign citizen. Now, if you think about that for a second, I'll explain what a sovereign citizen is for anybody out there that doesn't know. A sovereign citizen was arrested outside the Trump rally. He says that he was innocent. So he claims to be a sovereign citizen, but as you heard and as you'll see, he is a Republican. He was at the Republican National Convention. He's seen posing all the time, idolizing Republican political figures, kind of like what the opposite of what a sovereign citizen is. So a sovereign citizen, for anyone that doesn't know, is a member of a political movement of people who oppose taxation, question the legitimacy of government, and believe that they are not subject to the law. Now, you might say that sounds a lot like you, Mr. Rebel Call. well, I don't classify myself as a sovereign citizen because it's another movement that really, in some ways, the government has control over. But it sounds like they want to make people aware to me of sovereign citizens and who they are. Because amidst this civil war that they're building, there are going to be people like us who claim that we're not a part of the Republicans or the Democrats, and they're just going to automatically label us as sovereign citizens. And sovereign citizens, again, are going to anger conservatives and anger Democrats, right? It'll actually cause these people who are so unhinged in the left-right to actually have a common enemy, which would be a sovereign citizen, which are citizens that refuse to really participate in the game that's going on. So the story immediately makes no sense whatsoever, right? They say that he's a sovereign citizen. That's what all the headlines say. That's what the mainstream media is reporting. Every single article lists sovereign citizen as what this guy is, yet everything you look at around him shows us that he seems to clearly be obsessed with Donald Trump, right? So the liberal mindset, the liberal narrative that's out there is this. Many, many more people like this guy who are ready to die for a fascist mind control cult. So Democrats are looking at this story saying that he actually went there armed to protect Trump, but they arrested him because he was trying to protect Trump. This is the narrative that they're giving us. They're literally calling him a Rambo for Trump. And one of the other things you may have heard in that video clip was fake passport, fake ID, license plates. This is a narrative you're going to continue to hear. It's a dual narrative that has to play into the left and the right. There's multiple narratives that when you hear them, you have to say to yourself, okay, are they playing both sides on this whole digital ID concept? Yes, they are. The smart cities and the freedom cities, these are dual concepts. They're just marketing them differently to each side, but they're continually talking about things like, well, the people who are going to vote, they don't even have IDs. This guy's got multiple IDs. We clearly need something new in place because people out there are just making up passports and using them. They're making up drivers. It's too easy. We need something that has to be encrypted, and then nobody could hack it. Nobody could hack into your bank account. We don't have to worry about people hacking into your emails. All this stuff will be secure. Plus, we can have everybody held accountable for actually voting. Because remember, that's the number one issue to the conservatives, voting. They actually are so deep in the hypnosis that they think that their vote actually counts. So the story that's out there with this guy it's extremely laughable. I mean, all you got to do is look at some of these pictures. He's posing with the Viking from the 6th day of January, this actor that they roll out who's got the pyramid and the crescent moons tattooed directly on his arm. He's got pyramids all over him. And even if you're somebody that says, well, it doesn't necessarily mean, the Illuminati because it's a pyramid, but it doesn't have an eyeball in it. The guy literally has the tattoos that I've exposed in the past that are on people like Jared Leto. These are pagan symbols, which to me are one and the same. You might as well just call them satanic symbols. He's got crescent moons and pentagrams on his hand. So give me an utter break that this guy is some type of, cult hero. It's laughable because this whole thing is cringy and embarrassing. I remember on that 6th day of January when they rolled this guy out, I could not stop laughing. I was laughing for like an hour straight at just what a charade of a production the government was putting on. But of course, they pretended to put him in jail and martyr him. And now he's a hero to the MAGA movement who just cannot seem to get out of their own way in regards to this hypnotism that's going on. So they say that Miller, this is the guy who supposedly went there, has a extensive history of petty run-ins with the law and appears to be a member of the Sovereign Citizens Movement, a far-right collective built on conspiracy theories that say the government have no authority over them. The FBI calls the group anti-government extremists who maintain that while they physically reside in the country, they remain separate or sovereign from the United States. In addition to trying to flout taxes and the court system, the FBI noted sovereign citizens are particularly opposed to traffic stops to the point that one 25-year-old armed member was gunned down in 2023 after refusing to comply with a Utah traffic stop. So this is part of the narrative that they want out there. They're now introducing to people out there who are not familiar with what a sovereign citizen is, what it is. But it makes no sense. It makes zero sense, okay? You're telling me that this guy's a sovereign citizen. He's at the Republican National Convention. He's hanging out with the Viking. These aren't just random photo ops. Jordan Peterson, the alt-right media, he seems to be idol worshiping them. Okay? So if you're a sovereign citizen, it means you don't participate in the government. Why in the world would you be a registered Trump voter? Why in the world would you show up to defend Donald Trump and be armed to defend Donald Trump? It makes zero sense. Not little sense. It makes no sense. Because if you're a sovereign citizen, by definition, you're not participating in the government, which would mean numero uno, would mean you're not complying and consenting to voting. Because that's one of the key words if you read about sovereign citizens is consent, consent. Well, what gives more consent than you actually registering to vote, which they claim he's a registered Republican, and he's actually not just a registered Republican. He was just at the National Convention for Republicans, and conveniently the video that's circulating around is him at the Republican National Convention complaining about the fact that it's cashless, which is a great point. It is something that should be noted for anybody out there that didn't know that the Republican National Convention was cashless. And of course, you didn't hear any of the alt-right media screaming about that, the ones who say cash is king, right? But, you know, at our convention, everything will be cashless as they continue to remove cash or try to just subliminally remove cash by not allowing you to use it anymore, by forcing you into these events. And then you look around and you go, how am I supposed to pay for this? Oh, you can't. You got to get your phone out and scan. Oh, wow. That's what they're doing all over the place. They're doing at national parks, they're doing it at zoos, they're doing it at sporting events. If you haven't noticed, they're literally making people QR code. I talked about this even at restaurants. They're making you get the menu via QR code. So here's just a quick clip of him at the Republican National Convention. But remember, we're told that this is a sovereign citizen who doesn't believe in the government or taxation, but he's at the Republican National Convention. I mean, you're only showing up to one of these things if you're a diehard. You're only showing up if you're obsessed with this MAGA movement. You know what I mean? Even if you're out there and who would show up to this? If you're a fan of a sports team, it's hard to get you to go to a sporting event. You got to be pretty unhinged to go to these things and show up. But this guy did.
So one thing I don't get is that everything at this convention, at the Republican National Convention, is cashless. This whole place is cashless. So I don't know. See, that's a Republican National Convention behind me. Wonderful people, wonderful time. Just not happy that it's all cashless.
So this story couldn't be more manufactured by the mainstream media. And again, just the notion of what it does is it plants seeds again about a Trump assassination. Because I think at this point, it's very clear to say that whatever ends up happening, at some point, there's going to be a big event around Donald Trump that would be an assassination that will finally go through. They've been preparing you for it. They've been desensitizing you to it. People are getting angrier and angrier every time one of these stories comes out about somebody trying to get too close to Trump and take Trump out. It's making people do things like this. That's the point. And that's how you know it's a staged story, right? Because the narrative that everybody's spewing out there, in addition to the sovereign citizen talk, is about how this guy is willing to die for Donald Trump. This is the mindset that they want people to have. That conspiracy theorists, remember, because they think, anybody out there that hears me talk thinks that I'm a part of MAGA, right? They don't even listen to the words that I say in my video. I could do a whole video saying that I don't vote, I don't believe in MAGA, I'm not a Trump supporter or a Democrat supporter. They're all working together. They'll still think, just based on me talking about, let's just say, weather modification, that somehow I'm a MAGA conspiracy theorist. Because the majority of people don't even listen. They just automatically stereotype you. That's pretty much what the world has become now, right? They try to stereotype people to be racist, this, that. We know what they're doing, and it's working. It's working. So the mindset that they want, because this is what they're saying in all these mainstream media outlets, this is what people are tweeting online, that there's so many people like this guy who is well armed and ready to die for a fascist, right? So in other words, Trump's army is being built. And this guy didn't go there to kill Trump, okay? This guy, they're saying he went there to protect him. And he went there with fake IDs, fake passports, fake this, fake that, even though he's clearly known in the MAGA circles because he's at these conventions with all of these government operatives. You can't even tell me if you think for 1 second that the Viking guy is not a government operative. I mean, the whole thing is utterly embarrassing, but what's more embarrassing is that people are falling for all of this stuff. Again, we've seen this guy with, Robert F. Kennedy, like I showed you earlier. We've seen with Vivek Ramaswamy or whatever his name is. These are all big figures in the conservative movement that are getting idolized by these civilians, who these civilians are not even realizing that they're getting so gaslit on purpose that they think that these people are just like them and they're here to support them and that they would lay their lives down for them. And that's exactly what the government's trying to create here. A massive psychological operation where conservatives literally will arm themselves to protect these people, because what are they thinking? What are they saying? They're saying that the Secret Service doesn't protect Trump. That's the narrative that's out there with the assassination attempts, right? How do these people keep getting so close? How is that even possible? And of course, that makes sense because nobody would get that close. But what they should be saying is that the entire thing is staged. The entire thing is make-believe. But now the notion is starting to present itself of civilians who are going to form militias to protect Donald Trump because government agencies aren't going to do it themselves. And as we head towards the fake election, there's going to be more and more stories like this because whatever the outcome is, which is predetermined, whatever they decide to do, just remember, the outcome is predetermined. Some people out there say things like, hey man, the lesser of two evils. And I just look at them, I say, you still don't get it, right? The lesser of two evils. Whatever it means with whoever they pick is that this is their plan. So the lesser of two evils narrative doesn't exist because bad things are about to go down. And whoever they place in that position is going to be held responsible for them. So there's no such thing as lesser of two evils. They're like, oh man, Trump's going to be in there. I'd rather have him though than Kamala. And they just don't seem to get it, that it's not real. And these are actors as placeholders so that they can create chaos around us. And that's what's going to come on November 5th. You're going to hear a lot of stuff again, fake assassinations. Election denying is the number one thing. Nobody out there could sit here and tell me that you can't see whoever we're told wins. Whoever they say on TV wins. The other side is not going to believe it. There's going to probably be a story about this election being really, really close, right? And a couple of key states. This is what they like to do. This is what the pre-programmed narrative has been, right? The thing in Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania. What state can somebody grab this state? And it's going to come down to small counties. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to county 666 and these people don't see it, or county 33 and these people don't see that the news is fake. But don't get people worked up about, ooh, it's going to be a close call. It's going to be a close call. And then, of course, the stories of collusion, right? Russia got involved, and that's how Trump ended up winning. Or the illegals voted. This county that we're told who's going to be the deciding county was once a conservative county. But they flooded the county with all of these illegals over the last 6 months. And now they all went and voted illegally, and they shouldn't be the one who's able to decide the outcome of the election. Hey, newsflash, the election ain't real. You're being worked. This is called psychological ops. So we all know that that's what's coming. But this story itself is laughable. And I took out of it when I heard it, okay, they didn't give us like anything like the other times where it's almost like each time it's gotten worse, right? The first one was so bad, the ear, right, that they dropped it. They've literally dropped the narrative. The only one they talk about now is the second guy, because they gave you a guy who looked like a liberal lunatic deliberately, right? Who had a letter that he wrote about saving the world by taking out Trump and letting people down, right? So everybody, boom, just started sticking in on that second narrative. Is he going to go to court, right? Because the first guy's dead. So everybody just goes, oh, all right, but that was suspicious about how he got so close. Yeah, you think? He only got that close because the government put him there and sat him there. He was a patsy, and he probably didn't even pull a trigger in the first place. The whole thing was, I'm sure a DARPA bullet was used to make sure it just nipped his ear the way that it looked like it, but it didn't even look like anything even hit him in the first place because he's got no mark on his ear, and nobody wants to hear that, right? How could they make it up? Oh, how could they do this, right? Meanwhile, the same conservatives question some of these other stories about the hook at Sandy and everything else, but because it's Donald Trump, he can't be one of them. He promises he's not because he says the things that we want to hear. So now we have a third supposed attempt. There's two sides to this, right? One side's claiming that it was an attempt. The other side's claiming that He was there to protect Donald Trump and be like a Rambo. But again, it's the seed planting of another assassination. Because the more we hear it, the more desensitized you get. That's the purpose of every story. The more desensitized you get, you can almost expect it to happen. And they haven't done this stuff over the last 10 years with Donald Trump for him to have a heart attack in the night, or for Donald Trump to just bow out and say, you know what, I'm going to remove myself and I'm just going to go move to an island somewhere and live out my days. Absolutely not. The character of Trump has been used to build up this civil war, and he is going to play an integral part in it. He doesn't have to just become president. He could lose and they could do stuff with red and blue states. There's a lot that's going to come, but he's not going to fade away. It's almost seeming like a lock that if they put him in, they'll have him whacked. If they don't put him in and a potential civil war breaks out, it could start a civil war if somebody finally gets to Trump because they say that the government no longer protected Donald Trump. Now that Kamala is in, the Secret Service completely won't even protect Donald Trump anymore. Those are the things that the people will lose it. And they're going to after the 5th of November. So be ready. So here's this character that they give us. What is it? Vem Miller, who's radicalized sovereign citizen, right? Because that makes sense. Sovereign citizens go and vote. Now, if anybody out there wants to, comment and be like, well, sovereign citizens should go vote. Well, if you go and vote, you're not a sovereign citizen by definition, okay? Because you're voting into the taxation. You're voting in to, if the definition of sovereign citizen has this word in there, question the legitimacy of government, then why in the world would a sovereign citizen vote? Not only vote, okay, we're not talking about a sovereign citizen maybe just changing his mind and going and voting. We're talking about a person who is at the Republican National Convention, who is drooling around all of these alt-right figures and posing for pictures that he posts on his social media. I mean, give me an utter break. These are manufactured news stories. And some people don't realize why they're manufactured because they don't read between the lines. Read between the lines. It's easy to see. The news is fake. And they are building a civil war, and it's going to begin, or everything's at least going to come to a head on November the 5th, because nobody's going to believe the outcome. And that's why they threw that little stuff in there about this guy not having, having multiple passports, multiple IDs, couldn't figure out his name, right? All these things are subliminally done to condition you into what they want to do. That's how it works. I thank you for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.